New tonight on Our News Live at 7. Big opportunities ahead as the Nassau Cruise Court is working on the finishing touches before its spring opening. But first,
an historic groundbreaking held this morning on the island of Grand Bahama for the country's first utility-scale solar power plant. Those details straight ahead.
And then in Our News at 7:30, we'll show you how some Bahamians are celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jamila Missick. An official groundbreaking ceremony held for the country's first utility-scale solar power plant over on Grand Bahama. Megan Shepard has more on this historic signing in a moment, but now to this. 2 male suspects are in police custody tonight after an apparent spree of robberies ended in a police chase leading to their arrest near Jubilee Gardens. Police tell us the suspects, who were driving a vehicle stolen from a man in an armed robbery in eastern New Providence last night, continued their spree today when they held up a woman and robbed her of her deposit bag around 2:30 this afternoon, just outside a bank in western New Providence. Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings telling Our News that officers were on routine patrol on Gladstone Road when they observed a white 2022 Suzuki XL traveling south at high speed. That's when the chase ensued, but ended a short time later when the suspects crashed into a wall after realizing they were surrounded by police.
The suspects exited their vehicle. 2 of them were armed with handguns. They engaged the police. The police engaged them, which resulted in one of the males being shot. He was taken to hospital, and at this time, his condition is unknown. We will update you with that in a short time. Police recovered from the suspects 2 handguns, along with ammunition, and a large quantity of cash, believed to be the cash that was stolen from the female at the banking institution.
Skippings tells us both suspects, who are known to police, were out on bail for serious offenses and were being electronically monitored. She said one of them had their bracelet covered completely in foil. Today's incident comes on the heels of the police force placing 10 brand new high-terrain SUVs on New Providence. The vehicles, which she says were made specifically for law enforcement, can cover any terrain and better positions officers to catch criminals.
This is a clear example of what we talk about when we say saturated patrols. You commit a crime, you will be caught. We are going to be relentless. We have a zero tolerance approach, and we will do what it is that we are mandated to do as a law enforcement agency. And so if you stand up to the police, be prepared for the police to take quick and decisive action with you.
And we'll tell you more about those 10 new Ford high-terrain SUVs the Chief Superintendent was speaking about coming up in Our News at 7:30. And now this, a former bank teller avoided serving a 1-year prison sentence for stealing by reason of employment yesterday after he met the terms of his plea agreement. Cameron Roll Jr. took a plea deal in 2018, requiring him to repay the $56,600 that was stolen from the account of former Governor General Arthur D. Hanna while he worked as a teller at the Bank of Bahamas. Senior Magistrate Darren Roll Davis ordered Roll to be jailed for a year after he only paid $35,520 in restitution. However, before Roll was placed on the bus to convey him to prison, the balance of $21,080 was paid. Meanwhile, 2 Bimini men are behind bars tonight after police were tipped off and found drugs and money in a Porgy Bay home. Shortly before 7 a.m. on Thursday, officers attached to the Allistown Police Station and the Drug Enforcement Unit searched the home, where they found marijuana, cocaine, and $16,000. The drugs and cash were seized, and 2 men, a 53-year-old and a 41-year-old, were arrested.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
An official groundbreaking ceremony was held for the country's first utility-scale solar power plant. Principals in the historic project holding a signing ceremony for the license agreement and the power purchase agreement. Our Megan Shepard was there for both events.
It is a major Bahamian-owned development that is expected to translate into savings for the Grand Bahama Power Company and, by extension, all Grand Bahamians. Chief Investment Officer in the Grand Bahama Power Company, Derek Newbold.
The project is a $15 million investment and is commercialized through a power purchase agreement.
President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Roll, noting this new initiative reduces our carbon footprint and heavy reliance on fuel for power generation. He says it also breaks ground in gender equality.
With 70% of its installation being led by women engineers.
And the $100 million question if savings generated by this solar plant will be passed on to consumers, while President of the Grand Bahama Power Company, Dave McGregor, explains exactly what that would look like.
Frees up capital that we might have spent doing solar to invest in the storage, electrical storage, battery storage that might be needed, that will be needed as time goes on, as more and more firms come on, and also invest in grid resiliency. So it allows us to focus.
The president of Lucaya's Solar Power Limited shares why Grand Bahama was chosen for the historic project.
From the investor side, we saw the need of this type of solution for the country.
The project is expected to be completed in 9 to 10 months. Reporting for Our News from the island of Grand Bahama, I'm Megan Shepard.
And coming up in our news at 7:30, we'll hear from Grand Bahamians weighing in on these recent developments. Meanwhile, the Nassau Cruise Port is still on schedule for its grand opening in May. The update came as Transport Minister JoBeth Colby Davis got a tour of the site this morning. Colby Davis says she's excited for the new opportunities the port will present.
I am so excited about what is happening and the experience the ground transportation industry will be getting from the traffic that's here, from the organization that I see in place, and just from the dedication to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to make some money for their businesses.
But those opportunities don't end with people involved in the transport industry. The Port Shopping Center will also be Bahamian-centric.
I'm so excited and delighted to hear how many entrepreneurs, small business owners that build themselves from the ground up with truly authentic Bahamian products will be here on display for the tourists to see what it means to be Bahamian. That's what's exciting. We're going to be celebrating 50 years of independence, and it's important that everything that we do from here on out stamps approval for Bahamians. It's the Bahamas. You're coming to the Bahamas, and so you should experience what it means to be Bahamian in the food, in the drinks, in the music, in the clothes, in the souvenirs, everything Bahamian. So I'm excited.
It's now time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, everybody. A very nice weekend setting up for the first half. We do have a frontal boundary. We'll tell you more about that later on. But it's very pleasant outside, and it's conducive for outdoor activity. 75 degrees with just a few clouds. Your winds are out of the south at 13 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature is at 74. Temperatures around the islands tonight, right now, it's 74 in Grand Bahama, Freeport, over in Marsh Harbor, 74 also. Pick up 75 in Allenstown, Bimini, more 74s popping up in Great Harbor Key, Nicholstown, Andros, over in Governor's Harbor. Central Bahamas, 77 in Kemps Bay, as well as in Georgetown, 75 in Arthurstown, Cat Island. Deadman's Key, 76. Over in Coburn Town, San Salvador, you are cool, 72. And into the southeast Bahamas, 78 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, 76s in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, Acklands, Abrams Bay, Masseytown, Inagua, 77, and our neighbors at the southeast, Tricks and Caicos Islands, you guys are 75 at this hour. Satellite view, ridge of high pressure dominating our weather today, and that's going to continue through tomorrow, but that ridge is eventually going to slide out towards the east. That's paving the way for an active cold front that's now moving into the the western portion of Florida, the southwest Gulf. We expect that front to get here sometime Saturday night into Sunday, but we won't see more showers and thunderstorm activity until that front really gets in the northwest Bahamas, and that will be Sunday afternoon. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Still to come on our news, we'll tell you why one member of parliament says more women are needed as representatives. And later, we take you to Paradise for a taste of the upcoming food festival. That's coming up when our news returns. After the recent comments from former Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson pushing for more women in politics, Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin is echoing the concern. We asked her what can be done to address the imbalance in Parliament.
There seems to be a barrier to women entering the sort of pinnacle of power, which is the Parliament and the Cabinet. And a lot of it has to do with cultural legacies that we have inherited. We need more women, but what I say to young girls is if you have the courage of conviction, and if you believe and you want to see change, step forward and help shape and make it, because the world is waiting for you.
Hannah Martin stresses that it's not just for the sake of equality. She says women having more of a voice in the process of developing legislation is necessary for the integrity of the politics.
We have to encourage young girls in particular to see themselves as power brokers, as people who are able to sit in the House of Assembly or Parliament and be able to help shape policy. It's important for it to happen because women, females, represent more than half of the population, but that is not being reflected in decision making. That's a huge and very serious gap, and it's also a major deficiency. It affects, I think, to a large extent, the qualitative nature of politics.
And now to our weekly Work in Progress segment. Tonight, the Deputy Director in the Ministry of Works is shedding light on a new project set for the island of Eleuthera. In an exclusive interview with our Italia Hall, he shares more details on a new glass window bridge that is expected to be constructed early next year.
The glass window bridge on the island of Eleuthera has had a nice engineering history. That's according to the Deputy Director in the Ministry of Works, Robin Moses. But following a major storm years ago, the bridge was moved 7 feet and is now down to a single carriageway.
Over the years, there's been many studies, many different designs, and so here we are in 2023, and I genuinely believe we're the nearest we've ever been to actually replacing the glass window bridge, because I mean it's a unique site in the world.
And he says one of the issues with the bridge is its overtopping, which makes it dangerous, forcing the bridge to be closed several times per year.
Waves is called the rage, overtops from the Atlantic side and cascades down into the Caribbean side.
He revealed that a new elevated bridge is being designed and is just about complete.
And now we're doing we're reviewing. Part of the scheme is that you have to do environmental and social and economic studies. Those are all complete and now they're being reviewed by, we're hoping to get Caribbean Development funding, bank funding for the project. So they are obviously very keen on us doing all the required documentation. So looking to go out to tender in July or August of this year. So it'll be an open tender with hopefully some big companies returning some pricing for the works.
Reporting for Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Italia Hall.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world, as the Jamaican government is set to increase minimum wage by 44%. Plus, our Jerome Sawyer is live from Atlantis with a taste of the Nassau Paradise Island Wine and Food Festival. And later, how some Bahamians are toasting to an Irish celebration. We have the details when our news returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. An arrest warrant has been issued for Russian President Vladimir Putin by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The warrant accuses him of being responsible for war crimes in Ukraine, including the unlawful deportation of children. Russia has repeatedly denied that its forces have committed atrocities in Ukraine. Putin's spokesman says Russia does not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC and describes this decision as outrageous and unacceptable. Russia earlier threatened to destroy any fighter jets given to Ukraine by its allies after two countries promised planes. How the coronavirus first started sickening people remains uncertain, but international scientists say they found suggestions the pandemic originated from animals and not a lab. The group is said to have examined previously unavailable genetic data from samples collected at a market close to where the first human cases of COVID-19 were detected in China. The WHO Director General says the data does not provide a definitive answer to how the pandemic began, but that every piece of data is important to finding an answer. In other news, Ford says it is recalling more than 1.5 million vehicles in the U.S. in two actions to fix leaky brake hoses and windshield wiper arms that can break. The largest of two recalls covers nearly 1.3 million 2013 through 2018 Ford Fusion and Lincoln MKX mid-size cars. Safety regulators say the front brake hoses can rupture and leak brake fluid, which would increase brake pedal travel and make stopping distances longer. Dealers are expected to replace the hoses, and Ford says it will mail owner notification letters starting April 17th. And Dominican boat captain Danny Henry was yesterday sentenced to 1 year in prison for his role in bringing several Haitian nationals to Nevis recently. Henry received a 6 months prison term for entering a port that is not a formal port and 12 months imprisonment for entering St. Kitts and Nevis without the consent of an immigration officer. He is also required to pay nearly $2,000 in 6 months on customs charges or face another 6 months in prison. Meanwhile, 6 police officers from the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force will head to St. Lucia to help the country in its fight against gang violence. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves announced the news this week, saying the St. Lucian government made the request through the regional security system, of which his country is a part of. And finally, from the region, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his government plans to increase the island's minimum wage by 44% as the local economy rebounds. The change will go into effect in June, with people making the minimum wage of $59 for a 40-hour work week to now earn $85. Holness announced the plan Thursday evening during his budget presentation in Parliament to the chairs of government supporters, adding that the increase is the biggest in 20 years. Still to come on Our News, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was March 17th and details of the Great Bahamian Gold Heist. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in Our News at 7:30, Grand Bahamians react to the investments coming on stream for that island. That's coming up when Our News continues. Welcome back to Our News. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was March 17th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1776, Samuel Nicholas' rule as commandant of the Bahama Islands ended. This as Continental Marines left New Providence after a 2-week occupation following the Battle of Nassau on March 3rd through 4th. The Historical Society notes that John Gambier became acting governor of the Bahamas at that time. And finally, on this day in 1926 was the Great Bahamian Gold Heist at the Office of the Commissioners. It is known as one of the biggest robberies in the modern history of the Bahamas. As the Historical Society notes, the thieves made off with gold and silver. Robbery of a treasury was the headline in one Australian newspaper, and the story even made front page in the New York Times. Reports say the thieves broke into the Office of the Commissioners of Currency in downtown Nassau, blew open the safe, and got away with about a ton of gold and silver. It is said the stolen gold and silver was used to guarantee the value of Bahamian money. In 1926, anyone that was holding Bahamian notes could exchange them on demand for gold and silver. With the gold and silver missing, this left the colony's money technically worthless. Around the world, people of Irish descent and the people who like to celebrate with them are toasting to St. Patrick's Day. The version of St. Patrick's Day we know today includes parades and pub crawls. Here in New Providence, Bahamian Bistro has partnered with nearby businesses for a pub crawl. Co-owner Jamal Stubbs.
First stop is here at Bahamian Bistro. Patrons will be able to enjoy mixing some local cocktails. That obviously with an Irish theme. Spend about some time, and then we'll transition over to Riptide, which Mrs. Albury. Well, she'll go through Hubbury, and she'll have some nice Irish themed cocktails, and then we'll but we'll transition to two-story catering. They'll have some more refreshments, also some bites, and then we'll end the tour at our sister company, Flamingo's Bar and Lounge.
We will have much more on the history of St. Patrick's Day coming up on Our News at 7:30 with Italia Hall. The Atlantis Resort is serving up an amazing variety of dishes this weekend at its very first Taste of Paradise Wine and Food Festival. Over the next 2 days, guests will get to sample and witness some of the best in the business as they serve up a delightful fusion of local and international cuisine. The event is a great mix of food and entertainment, and right in the mix of it all tonight is our Jerome Sawyer. He joins us live from the Royal Deck at the Atlantis Resort. Jerome.
Hi Jamila, and welcome to the Nassau Paradise Island Wine and Food Festival, brought to you by the Atlantis Resort. And what an exciting event. It's a little bit loud, so you're going to have to bear with me over the next minute or so. So this event is seeing about 14 vendors or so here throughout the property, showcasing great food and great cocktails, and of course great non-alcoholic drinks as well. They brought together vendors for an entire week of what they're calling a cultural extravaganza, if you can imagine that. So this is a great opportunity for guests to get a taste of some great food, or they can participate in some master classes, be a part of great dinners, or even just show up to some great intimate cocktail receptions. And this is, of course, all a part of this first wine and food festival being put on by Nassau Paradise Island and presented by the Atlantis Resort. So this culinary extravaganza is taking place tonight here out on the Royal Deck here at the Royal Towers at Atlantis, featuring some world-recognized chefs. Some of them are local chefs, some restaurants, of course, here from the hotel as well. On the stage behind me, the Synergy Band providing the entertainment. But I do, before we go, want to show you a little something about the food out here. Good news is, though, there are tickets still available for the event for this weekend. The big event is tomorrow night, and that is going to be featuring internationally acclaimed Wyclef Jean, on. It's called Jerk Jam. Tickets are still available for that. And of course, tonight though, it's all about the Royal Deck. I do want to give you an opportunity to see some of what's taking place here. We're here at the Cisco stall, and they have something called oxtail tacos. Now, two of my favorite things, tacos and oxtail. I'm here with Chef Jamal Small. Tell me a little bit about this tasty treat that you have on display here.
Listen to me. So it's 24-hour braised oxtail. Made an avocado mousse. We call it pear, so we use some local pear. I made a mousse out of it. Pickled onions with some guava, some radishes. I made a farmer's cheese, so that's a cheese that's made from scratch. And then just put a little fluff, the vibe sauce. So I call it the vibe sauce. It's a aioli. And you just put it on a torch tortilla and you're good to go.
All right, thank you, Chef Small. Hold mine. I'm coming back for that in a minute. And I want to hold some for our Italia Hall, who's always asking me about where to go and eat. And Italia, I know you're coming up at 7:30 and you're watching, so here's something for you. The party continues after this particular event. It's something called, here you go, just for you, tacos and tequila. And this is in conjunction with DJ Kim Lee. She's a reality TV show star from Bling Empire. So those of you who are at home, if you want to come down and check out the after party, Jamila and Natalia, I'm going to hold your oxtail tacos. But certainly tomorrow night, Wyclef Jean is going to be on stage, and I understand it's going to be a great event. So for now, we're live at the Atlantis Deck on Paradise Island. I'm Jerome Sawyer. Back to you, Jamila.
Jerome, I see you're definitely in the mix. You have some people dancing around you and everything, but we're going to hold you to that. We're waiting on our tacos when you come back, all right? All right, thanks, Jerome. And to learn more about that and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for our news at 7, but joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia.
Yes, Jamila, it looks so exciting at the Wine and Food Festival.
We need to go.
Yes, but I'm definitely looking forward to the oxtail tacos. That's my thing. So, Jerome, we'll hold you to that. And also, Jamila, it's St. Patrick's Day. And how are you spending your St. Patrick's Day? I know we have on our green.
We have on our green, very festive. Yes. Maybe we can get into something a little bit later.
Right, it sounds good on Paradise Island. All right, thanks, Jamila. Well, we've got lots more to get to in a moment, including why the F&M is pushing anti-corruption, and later, St. Patrick's Day in Paradise. A push for anti-corruption, new tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The Free National Movement addressing the elephant in the room. And some Grand Bahamians hopeful to see promised projects come to fruition. Our Megan Shepherd has their views straight ahead. And later, will amendments to the Sexual Offences Act be approved? One MP explains why she thinks they'll get the green light. Plus, raising a glass to St. Patrick's Day in the Bahamas. Our Marlena Leonard has a dish on a unique way locals are celebrating. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Major developments announced for Grand Bahama being touted as economic drivers for the island, but some Grand Bahamians are saying promises are one thing, but seeing plans come to fruition is another. Our Megan Shepard has the full story coming up in about 5 minutes, but first, the Free National Movement has consistently hit out at the Progressive Liberal Party over allegations of corruption. But tonight, the party's leader says that will not change, even as some of their own are being accused of similar acts. Jamila Mizik picks up the story from here.
The Free National Movement has a history of being the government in the sunshine, and we have governed for 4 non-consecutive terms, and I think our record as an administration committed to accountability and transparency has been very good.
Leader of the Free National Movement, Michael Pintard, addressing the elephant in the room as 2 former F&M MPs are facing corruption charges.
In recent years, obviously there have been accusations leveled, and now that we are in opposition, charges have been laid. We are going to monitor very closely the upcoming court cases and to ensure that there is certainly fairness in the manner investigations are conducted, and of course these matters are being pursued, and we trust the justice system to do what is correct.
Most recently on Wednesday, former F&M Cabinet Minister Lanisha Roll was brought before the courts for a laundry list of bribery and fraud-related charges. Despite these recent court matters, Pintard says they will continue to hold the Progressive Liberal Party's feet to the fire.
We have consistently identified cases where the government has been breaking the law. We've seen it in the case of the procurement law, where they have refused to reveal who they are giving contracts to and for what amounts. We've also seen it in the case of the Ministry of Housing and the Housing Act, where the government has taken possession of a loan that they have no authority to take possession of from Central Bank, $232 million they have agreed to draw down on and have started to do so, we believe illegally. And we see it in other ways. And here's a government that wish to hold others accountable, but they themselves are not.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Police in Grand Bahama have arrested 4 Chinese nationals, according to reports shortly before 10 p.m. Police received information that the group was found hiding in a yard on Royal Palm Way. The man, woman, and 2 children were handed over to the Bahamas Department of Immigration. And police need your help in finding 3 men they say are responsible for overnight armed robberies. The first incident taking place around 11 last night after the victim arrived at his Dignity Gardens home. That's when 2 gunmen approached and demanded he get out of his car. The suspect stole the victim's vehicle. In the second incident, a man was dropping a friend home in the Elizabeth Estates area when the suspect's silver Nissan Cube pulled up and blocked his car in the driveway. The gunman, who was dressed in a singlet and dark pants with a white shirt tied around his face, approached the vehicle. The man then ordered the victim out of his white Suzuki Jeep, and the suspect sped off, making good his escape. And while the search for those suspects continue, officers of Operation Ceasefire are getting 10 new vehicles today to help capture criminals. The full story on those high-powered SUVs in just a bit. But now to Grand Bahama, Our News speaking with residents there who shared their thoughts on recently announced projects. Many say while they've heard the promises before, they are hopeful the plans will come to fruition. Megan Shepard reports.
We're used in Grand Bahama to hearing big stories, and a lot of times they don't happen, but hopefully this time it's going to happen.
Those sentiments by President of Waugh Construction, Godfrey Waugh, sums up the thoughts of most Grand Bahamians. This as 2 major projects were announced as potential economic jump starters for the island. The long-awaited redevelopment of a new airport and construction of an historic solar plant.
It's hard to progress without a good modern airport, and with that coming, I think it will move us in the right direction.
Thumbs up and hats off to the government for being diligent and being fast in getting that airport potentially up and running.
As it relates to the announcement of a first-of-its-kind solar power plant in the country.
Hopefully that will stabilize the fuel costs, and so we won't see fluctuations in the power bills.
If it's only going to be a provider without benefiting the local consumer, it really doesn't have any merit to the small business people who wants to open up businesses, because the cost of power have kept people out of business in Freeport and has caused many businesses to collapse.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. Meanwhile, the Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Obi Wilchcombe, is expressing optimism about a new $300 million development. And we'll tell you more about the potential benefits in a moment, but for now, partly cloudy skies today as temperatures cool off again for the evening. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center live with the latest on this St. Patrick's Day. Greg, where's your green today?
You didn't give me that.
Next time, definitely.
Yeah. Happy past St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Of course, we are enjoying some very nice conditions on the outside. 73 degrees is our temperature right now with just a few clouds. The winds out of the south at 13 miles per hour. Your feels like temperature, a very comfortable 74. Satellite view, quiet across area. Ridge of high pressure is in charge, and that ridge is going to continue to stay with us through tomorrow and in the early part of Sunday. But it will eventually slide towards the east. That's going to be paving the way for frontal boundary now approaching the eastern Gulf of Mexico. We should see that fronting get in here sometime Sunday. That's your first quick check on weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast. Is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the marital rape discussion continues, examining proposed amendments to the Sexual Offences Act. And new wheels for Operation Ceasefire. Police show off the newest additions to their fleet today, plus raising a glass to an Irish celebration. Our Marlena Leonard has the story when our news continues. The development of Eden Hotel and Resort is expected to have a major impact on the West Grand Bahama community. Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Obi Wilchcombe, says the government received the proposal several months ago and they moved it swiftly to see it through. He also says they are optimistic about the potential benefits.
We wanted to create an anchor because West Grand Bahama, like the rest of Grand Bahama, must be a part of the new tourism plant. And the tourism plant must not be 100 rooms or 1,000 rooms. What we need in Grand Bahama is 5,000 to 10,000 rooms to create some sustainability and job opportunities. You must remember 1 room, 2 employees. And so it's going to be great for West Grand Bahama. It's going to help West Grand Bahama, but also it sends a strong message to the rest of the world that Grand Bahama is indeed open for business.
And he says his project, in addition to others, will open the doors to more visitors.
Our job over the next month, 2 months, several months is to begin the process of preparation. We have to start marketing the island again. We've got to think about 2 years from now. because it's all well and good to have, but you have to begin the process so that once the property is open, we're ready to go. So we are excited. The construction is going to be good. We want to have majority of Bahamians on the construction site. We want to utilize Bahamians. We want to buy locally. We want to make sure that the economy benefits.
The ceasefire unit of the Royal Bahamas Police Force now equipped with 10 new Ford high-terrain Jeeps. Police Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Christine Skippin says the vehicles will assist with patrols and are each valued at $150,000.
They are outfitted with the latest in technology, and they're also outfitted with guards to prevent officer safety as they traverse the streets of New Providence. During this month, we're celebrating Police Month, and so these vehicles come at a timely time as we continue with our operations during the month of March, which has yielded significant results.
And Skipping says so far the special unit recovered over 30 firearms this month. She says officers will take a more aggressive approach to policing. The vehicles are a part of a 20-vehicle donation from the U.S. Embassy earlier this year.
Earlier this year, we were donated with 20 vehicles. This is actually the first 10 that we're releasing today. So we do have another 10 that's actually going to be released a little later on. These ones have just been equipped with the communication devices, the latest in technological communication to assist the officers while they're actually on patrol.
It's not a matter of if, but when amendments to the Sexual Offences Act will be passed. That's according to Social Services State Minister Lisa Ramming. Bertha McDermott has the details.
State Minister of Social Services Lisa Ramming giving the assurance that the proposed amendments to the Sexual Offences Act will receive parliamentary approval. She says it's a matter of when it will happen. Her comments came at a joint forum at the University of the Bahamas.
This means a lot, not only to me, but to those who will benefit when this act is passed. I'm not going to say should, when, because it will.
The forum had a host of panelists from the church, politics, and civil society. Kingdom Life Church Senior Pastor Cedric Moss expressed concern about the term rape and marital rape and offered other options. He also says he believes successive governments have failed to address the issue.
Successive governments, in my view, have unwisely put the cart before the horse by drafting proposed amendments to the Sexual Offences Act before consulting with stakeholders in the general public.
The issue of marital rape has been a hot-button topic for quite some time. In 2009, the then Ingram administration tabled a bill that would have made spousal rape a crime with a possible life sentence. Ingram explained back in September that he was forced to withdraw the bill because he didn't have the support of members of the FNM or the PLP. Offering a legal perspective, attorney Robin Line says the discussion has become too much about personal opinion. She posed the question, after rape, then what?
Have we sensitized our police officers? Have we centralized our response as a government, as a people, as a community? In the hospital where she'll be examined, in the police station where she'll be questioned and interviewed, in the judicial system where she'll be asked to give testimony. After rape, then what?
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bertha McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, more than $500,000 donated to boost the country's storm supplies.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, the NCAA tournament getting underway. We'll tell you how Yolette McEwen helps lead Ole Miss deep into a playoff position. And speaking of playoffs, the New Providence Basketball Association playoffs, those are rolling along as well. With details on that and more coming up in sports.
But first, can colon cancer be cured? An expert gives us the lowdown. We have all of the details when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. 6 months out from the Atlantic hurricane season, the United States Embassy is making a $600,000 donation to NEMA. The donation consists of 28 generators for Family Islands, 6 reverse osmosis water purification systems, and safety equipment for shelters. State Minister with responsibility for NEMA and the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, Miles Rota, explains how the donation will assist preparing for future storms.
The determination of which islands will be supplied with generators was made following inspections in 2022 of the 143 facilities that served as hurricane and emergency shelters throughout the Bahamas. Reverse osmosis systems. These systems will allow for the rapid production of potable water for general use in remote areas. We must continue our efforts to ensure that we do all that is possible to better prepare.
Now, catastrophic hurricanes aren't new for the Bahamas, as many Abaconians and Grand Bahamians are still reeling from the devastation left by Hurricane Dorian. The Rota acknowledging that through it all, the United States has remained a partner, consistently assisting in preparation for and following natural disasters. U.S. Embassy Acting Deputy Chief of Mission Lance Posey says the donation is a result of the United States listening and responding.
It's important that we name this threat. It allows us to properly respond. Exasperated by the incomprehensible impacts of Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic, we must continue to build towards hurricane resiliency. And I think these donations are a valuable step towards increasing the safety and reducing the vulnerabilities of our brothers and sisters in the Family Islands.
Colon cancer is the third most common cancer in the Bahamas, and while some may fall in victim to the disease, doctors say it's not a death sentence. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik talks to a local surgical oncologist about treatment options.
Colon cancer develops from polyps that are benign, which means they aren't cancerous and may not spread. But surgical oncologist Dr. Wesley Francis says they must be caught early.
Colon cancer is actually preventable. So you don't really want to catch people when they're having symptoms. You want to catch them before. And so that's in the period which we call the asymptomatic period. And hence screening is important.
And the gold standard screening tool for colon cancer is a colonoscopy. But what about symptoms? Well, Dr. Francis says they usually occur when the cancer is located on the left side of the colon. Once diagnosed with the illness, he says the primary treatment for cancer confined to the colon is surgery.
Whenever you have colon cancer that's spread to the lymph nodes, that's termed stage 3. Okay? So stage 3 colon cancer, because now of the risk of further spread elsewhere, you need to be treated with chemotherapy.
And as for survivability,
so if you have colon cancer that's confined to the colon and stuff, your survival is great, over 90%. When you start to get it in the lymph nodes or stage 3, then you're looking somewhere between 60 and 70%. But then added chemotherapy, that would improve your survival in that situation. And then in stage 4 colon cancer, depending on the degree of spread, because not all stage 4s are the same, then your survival can be somewhere around like 50%. It's not a death sentence. There's still treatment for that, but it's much more intense.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Coach Yo looking to make a run as the NCAA Women's Tournament gets underway. Meanwhile, the New Providence Basketball Association playoffs continues at AF Adderley. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our Sports on a Friday. Everybody, I'm Marcellus Hall. Tell you what, this weekend promises to be pretty exciting as the NCAA Women's Tournament gets underway. One of our very own, Yolette McPhee-McEwen, has the Ole Miss Lady Rebels at the number 8 seed. They're looking to make a push. Their first game comes your way this evening as they face off against Gonzaga. Meanwhile, however, right here in New Providence, the New Providence Basketball Association playoffs, those are underway. Let's take a quick look and see how those are going right now. New Providence Basketball Association playoffs continuing last night over at the AF Valley Gym. Couple of games on the agenda for you, starting with Division II. Let's take a look at how that one turned out. It was the Discount Distributors Rockets going up against Cybertech. Cybertech get a win here, 71-62. That's a pretty impressive job for them. They look to continue to wrap up that series. Meanwhile, on Division I side of things, Sandollar up against Regulators. And the Regulators getting a nice 12-point victory, 92-80 ends up being the final score. Playoff action does continue tonight. That'll be over at the AF Valley Gym. Now, taking a look at what else is going on as far as the NBA is concerned, both of our NBA players in action last night, starting with DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns trying to snap a 3-game losing streak, and they would get the job done against Orlando. 116-113 ends up being the final. As for our guy, DeAndre Ayton, he finished up with 16.7 rebounds in 34 minutes on the floor. Pretty impressive job for him. Meanwhile, as we said, both players are in action, so that means that Buddy Hield and Indiana Pacers, they took on the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee unable to get it done against Indiana. 139-123 ends up being your final score. Indiana secures a nice victory here. Both teams and both players will continue to play throughout the course of this weekend as the regular season winds down. And that's it, your check on sports here on this Friday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, putting a Bahamian flair on an Irish celebration. Plus, stay with us. Your weekend weather planner is coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. What kind of weather will the weekend bring? Well, Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and happy Friday evening, buddy. Be pretty much looking rather nice for the first half of the weekend. There is a front that we're going to watch getting in here sometime by Sunday, but the first part of Sunday may be nice as well. Warm temperatures expected tomorrow as that high pressure ridge continues to dominate our weather. It's going to slide out towards the east through tomorrow, and that's paving the way for a frontal boundary now very active across the southeast United States. Showers and thunderstorms expected to get in the northwest Bahamas by Sunday. That front is going to stall, so we're looking for Sunday and Monday to be on the wet side. So some showers in the forecast during that time frame. Taking a look at our future forecast, activity in the Gulf of Mexico moving across the Florida area, central Florida by Saturday evening, and then by Sunday we expect that front to fall stationary across the northwest Bahamas. So as I mentioned, some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast during that time frame. Northwest Bahamas, boating tonight through tomorrow, small craft caution in effect, rip current risk out there high, southeast to south at 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet over the ocean. There's still some north to northeasterly swells. Your low tide will be at 11:08 tonight for the central and southeastern islands. Advisory if you're down there, east to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. It will be gusting at times, seas 4 to 6 feet, but they will be up to 8 feet in some northeasterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, nice tomorrow, temperatures in the 80s, but Sunday we get some showers in the forecast and that holds into Monday. But by Tuesday we expect conditions to improve, temperatures will be back in the 80s, and of course the weekend the second half looking a little wet. That's a look at our weather. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks so much, Greg. Around the world, people of Irish descent and the people who like to celebrate with them are toasting to St. Patrick's Day. In this next report, our Marlena Leonard walks us through a little bit of the history and how we're able to put our own Bahamian flair on the centuries-old celebration.
St. Patrick's Day became an official Catholic feast day in the 1600s, originally serving to honor St. Patrick and the arrival of Christianity in Ireland. The version of St. Patrick's Day we know today, which includes parades and pub crawls, was actually popularized in North America by Americans of Irish descent. These kinds of celebrations are more common in Ireland now as well.
As for here in the Bahamas, even bars and restaurants that aren't usually Irish-themed get festive for the day, with some having pub crawls, parties.
Bahamian Bistro has also partnered with nearby businesses for a pub crawl tonight. Bistro co-owner Jamal Stubbs tells us,
first stop is here at Bahamian Bistro. Patrons will be able to enjoy mixing some local cocktails, that obviously with an Irish theme. Spend about, some time, and then we'll transition over to Riptide, which Mrs. Albury, well, she'll go through Hubbury, and she'll have some nice Irish themed cocktails, and then we'll but we transition to two-story catering. They'll have some more refreshments, also some bites, and then we'll end the tour at our sister company, Flamingo's Bar and Lounge.
As for why Bahamians love to partake in the Irish holiday, Stubbs says,
when you think of St. Patrick's Day, you think of beer, right? We know what our pastime is in the Bahamas. We like to have a good time. We like to enjoy and revelry in whatever spirits you tend and be born. So I think that's really the catch for us. We look for any excuse to party.
With a myriad of parties, specials, and other events happening throughout the country tonight, we hope you get to experience a bit of that luck of the Irish and paint the town in green. Reporting for Our News, and happy St. Patrick's Day, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, Marlena looks great. I think I'll check it out. And with that, we thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.